I'm Joe Mahoney. I'm in the effective speaking class at Nichols College, and today will be a persuasive speech. What I want to do is persuade people that the immigration of into the United States is a good thing, why we need to continue doing it, and a little bit about the history of it. Since the first Europeans hit our shores and discovered our new land, immigration began. The streets weren't always paved with gold, as everyone hears about. Today, with all the influx of people coming across our borders from Mexico and Central and South America, people are worried about their jobs, worried about whether the government can support all these people and how they'll do it and what that means to us. But throughout our history, the United States has welcomed and brought in many people from all over the world. The Mexicans were victimized by their government in the revolution of the 1800s. The Jews fleeing Nazi Europe in the 1930s and 1940s. The Armenians who were being exterminated by the Turks in the early 1900s. The Pilgrims who came to the United States from England and formed colonies such as Jamestown, Plymouth Plantation, and our slave trade. It was a dark part of our history, but it did happen, and it brought millions of Africans here who melded into our society to become all one big society. This immigration timeline shows that pre-1790, Africa and England were the biggest contributors, about 300,000 people per year each. In the period of 1790 to 1820, when we were still a young nation, they adopted their first naturalization law in 1790. In 1808, Congress banned the slave trade and different new naturalization laws were adopted. In 1820 to 1880, immigration was really starting to soar. Where we had 300,000 here, we're up to 3 million from some countries in this period. The German Empire and Ireland and England and Austria-Hungary were the ones that led the charge. But the word of gold being found in California spread throughout the world. And this brought people by the thousands and millions. Not everyone was coming here for prosperity. There was a great famine in Ireland in the 1840s. And millions of people immigrated here so they wouldn't die at home because the famine was so bad. The government during this period was very, very pro-immigration. They wanted people to come. They encouraged people to come. They made it easy. But there were a few restrictions. We had an issue with the Chinese government, and because of the politics and everything else and the number of Chinese people coming into the country, they actually had this, they passed in 1882 the Congress Chinese Exclusion Act. And this severely limited how many people were coming into the country and how they got here. The period of 1880 to 1930 saw the biggest influx of immigrants. Italy saw almost 5 million. Russia, Germany, and Austria-Hungary showed 3 million each. Sweden at one time actually had 9% of its country immigrate here in 1 year. There were other policies that were in place for immigration. In 1907, we had a gentleman's agreement with Japan where we'd allow a certain number of immigrants into the country. Unfortunately, many of them only got as far as Angel Island, which is off of San Francisco, and they were allowed no further. The government saw that immigration was becoming too fast and they weren't able to handle it. In the 1920s, they passed a series of laws that would limit the flow, limit the number of people. From 1930 to 1965, many different things happened too. We had a Great Depression. People all over the world weren't able to travel. They weren't able to make it to the United States. In the 1940s, we had World War II. Many Japanese were put in internment camps, and they were followed around very closely, almost treated like prisoners. Italian and German Americans were detained and spied on also, but not quite as bad as the Japanese were. Despite that, we still had 940,000 Germans, 390,000 Italians immigrate during that period. Also during that period, due to the Cold War, we had millions of people come in from some of the Soviet bloc countries, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary. So we allowed all these people that were having trouble in their own countries to come here. And it's important because many, many famous people came here. We had great scientists such as Albert Einstein, great publishers such as Joseph Pulitzer, great composers such as Irving Berlin. They were all immigrants that came here. So, in closing, what I want to say is, throughout the history, America has always welcomed immigrants into our country. At times, we've had to change the way they came in to slow it down, or more specifically, determine who was coming in from where. And without this, though, our country wouldn't be as great as it is. We can't let a few minor things, like some of these laws, slow us down from letting immigrants come in. Without these immigrants, our country wouldn't be as great as it is. And just because the law or the rules aren't perfect for our society today, doesn't mean we should just stop immigration from coming in. We should continue to work on these laws and make them fair for everybody that wants to come in and everybody that's here. Thank you.